Hello, welcome back, everybody. PayPal and Patreon are down below if you want to support me. Only do so if you actually can. So, you may have seen it pop up in oil and gas news recently that Kuwait, in quotation marks, discovered a new giant oil field. However, that's extremely misleading terminology because it did not discover any such thing. It did discover a new oil field offshore in some of the little bit of territory that they have left, just to the northeast of this island here. However, while said oil field, if it were discovered offshore of Guyana or Namibia, or even in the Gulf of Mexico, maybe, it would qualify relatively as a giant oil field. However, this oil field is in the Persian Gulf, and a oil field that's around two, maybe 2.5 billion barrels in size, which is what the estimate of this one is not a giant oil field by the standards of what is discovered in the Persian Gulf. The Persian Gulf is home to oil fields like Burgan, which, when it was first discovered, contained somewhere around upwards of 80, maybe even 100 billion barrels of oil. So, no, discovering a field of 2 billion barrels is not a giant new oil field. But the supposed plan has been stated by Kuwait that they intend to, after the OPEC production cuts are ended, whenever Saudi Arabia decides to do so, which they're not going to, see the link in the corner to a separate video about that and why that is. But in this supposed future where Saudi Arabia does allow OPEC to stop the production cuts, Kuwait claims they intend to not only go back up to their 3 million barrel per day plateau, but to increase their oil production using this new field up to a plateau of 4 million barrels per day, which is not going to happen. So, what could they do with this? Well, if they were to do a large maximal plateau off of it, then they would be able to pursue numbers like what's been capable from similar fields offshore of Guyana. And since this one is a little bit bigger than those, it would be able to go a little bit higher. So instead of being able to go somewhere between 250 and 500,000 barrels per day for a short while, you might be able to do between 300 and 600. And once it got close to the halfway point of depletion, or about 60%, then it would no longer be able to hold that plateau. So on the lower end, they could potentially do 300,000 barrels per day from it, which obviously, if they went back up to 3 million barrels per day, that would give them a production level of 3.3, and they would be able to hold that extra 300 for a bit under 10 years before that would start declining. If they went towards the upper range, like 500 or 600,000 barrels per day from that field, they would only be able to hold that particular extra bit, which would obviously put them at 3.5 or 3.6, assuming they went back up to their 3 plateau. They would only be able to hold that for a couple years, maybe 4 or 5 at the longest, before they would start declining from that back down to 3. So, no, this field is, for one, not a giant oil field, and it also would not enable them to go up to 4 million barrels per day of oil production. So, that's this quick update on that whole development. Thank you, everybody, for sticking around and listening. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't already. PayPal and Patreon are down there if you want to support me. Just only do so if you actually can. There's a Google Drive link in the description to a drive with docs containing all kinds of graphs, charts, data compilations. The link to my Catch channel will be in the top pinned comment as well. May God bless and protect all of you, and I will see you all around next time.